Welcome to 30-Minute Reviews. I am Adam. 2 topics to cover today. No, I'm not going to talk about the Morbius trailer because I didn't watch it because, I'm going to be honest with you, do not give a shit about Morbius. I will see it. I will review it. I have very low, expectations for this movie. I do not think it'll be entertaining. I do not think it'll be fun. I do not think it'll be good. Not a big fan of Jared Leto. Not a big fan of, anything to do with it. But, Morbius is a movie that is coming out, so I will talk about it when it comes out in April. But before that, we're going to talk about, what's it called? We're going to talk about the trailer for Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore, and also the new insiders who are talking about Pokemon Violet and Pokemon Scarlet. But let's do the latter first. And before we do anything, if you go to bit.ly/BOSTMRSURV, you can do a brief survey to help us figure out what people want to hear about. So that's bit.ly/BOSTMRSURV. So let's talk about the insiders who have all this insider information about Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet. Now look, I do not have insiders. I do not know anyone well, that's not true. I've seen stuff early, so I guess I technically do have contacts within, DC more than Warner Brothers, or more than, Disney or Pokemon Company or anything like that. So I do have contacts. I do not ever, and it sounds stupid, but I never use it for journalistic things like asking them for information. But yeah, I have, I saw Naomi early. I saw most of Peacemaker early. I did not see, I did not get in to see the Batman early, so, take that what you will. But, I could have gone tomorrow, but fuck that. I wasn't paying $25 to go sit in fucking, a theater for 3 hours, 7 o'clock after working all day. So here we are with, insiders. And you see insiders a lot. And over the last month, insiders have taken a huge hit. The Nintendo insiders, the guys who have, inside information about, what goes on in these various companies before, before these games come out. Like, they know something. They claim to know something. They pretend they know something. So that way they can get attention and get people to click on their, Twitter, and they can get followers or people watching their YouTube videos and all of that. And, there have been times where I've correctly predicted things. There have been times where I've incorrectly predicted things. And I think the thing that we should look at and be like, do these people actually have contacts, is how accurate are they when it comes to big reveals. So there was a Nintendo Direct last month, and these insiders didn't know about a good amount of what was in the Nintendo Direct. And were actually directly incorrect about what was coming in these Nintendo Directs. In this Nintendo Direct. Like, directly contradicted by the Nintendo Direct, where the first one was the big reveal of, Mario Kart 9 is coming. Batten down the hatches. Grab your ass. This is coming. We are going to have Mario Party 9 on the Nintendo Switch. And then that didn't happen. There's DLC for Mario Kart 8. But there was no Mario Kart 9. So, what inside information did they know? Like, that's not even like a close thing, like, oh, well, they were close. It's like, no. That's 2 entirely different things. It's not like they were like, oh, well, we're developing a new Mario Kart game. I think I said Mario Party before. Mario Kart game. Like, no, it's not correct. You were not right in what you alleged. You made a claim. You claimed you had insider information, and you were entirely incorrect. Which means that either you do have an insider, and this person who's acting as it, who is, giving you the inside information, suspects that you're just leaking the information to the press or leaking the information out, So they're giving you intentionally wrong information so that way you lose that contact in the future. Or alternatively, you're just lying. And you're like, well, it's been a while since we had a Mario Kart game. We've had, X, Y, and Z happen, and we haven't had this happen. So yeah, it's like, you're just making shit up. Like, that's a very different thing from, oh, well, I know someone and they told me this is happening, and it's like, okay, well, cool, like, you lied. That's the crux of the matter here. You lied to get attention. And then came the second time that insiders, allegedly had information, but not really. And the second time is with the announcement of the new Pokemon games, Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet. And the thing is, up until and including the day of, until the announcement at the Pokemon Presents, the insiders were claiming, oh, there's no new game coming. There's DLC coming for, holy shit, that was almost an accident. There's DLC, not for, including me, including the person in front of me who almost just ran a red light to try and skip 12 seconds off their time getting through this light. It was this thing where it's like, oh, so they're going to announce DLC. And they were teasing like, oh, Looker's going to appear in the DLC. Oh, this person's going to appear in the DLC. And, oh, there's going to be all this DLC. All this stuff for Legends Arceus. And, I don't want to say I bought into it, but if you listen to my prediction for what it's going to be, my idea was, we saw what they did with the other game, what was it called, with Sword and Shield. And Sword and Shield, they got its lifetime was 2 years, because there was the game, and then there was the DLC, which was the second year. And they interspersed in 2020 the Crown Tundra and the Isle of Armor. And it's like, okay, well, that makes sense. They're gonna do that again for Legends Arceus. And they're talking about DLC, and it's like, oh, well, DLC is gonna come. So yeah, that made sense. That was a logical prediction. What I didn't take into consideration is that this game was closer in style, in terms of where it was going to fall on the as a, what's it called? Where it was going to fall as a what's the word I'm looking for? As a release, it was going to fall closer to Let's Go, which was one and done, rather than a mainline game. Like, yeah, it is the next mainline game, quote unquote, but it's closer in style to Let's Go, which is also technically a mainline game, but it shakes up the formula, changes key elements of gameplay, and also it is a totally kind of different experience, and it is a totally different game. And that, thinking back, that makes sense. If we're looking at the style, it omits abilities, it changes the way the game is played fundamentally, and everything's kind of different. So it makes sense to me that game would be basically a standalone, and they're not going to do DLC for it. They're just going to have it be a one and done and be done with it. So yeah, that makes sense, in hindsight. But people were still saying, like, oh, I have an insider, they're going to, reveal big DLC, and it's like, the DLC's coming in April. That was one of the big things they kept saying, was like, the DLC's coming in April, and the DLC is going to include these characters, and the DLC, and the thing is, too, it's like, well, you're just mirroring what happened in the past, and saying, like, oh, that happened there, so it'll probably happen again. It's like, okay, cool, like, I don't understand why people, like, I understood why people assumed it was correct, but to be like, oh, I have an insider, and this is what I think, if you just say, I can say this from experience, because I've predicted things and been correct, and I've predicted things and been wrong, and it's like, if you just say, hey, I think that, I think that this is happening, I think this is happening this way, people don't give a shit. If you say, hey, I have an insider who works at Nintendo and says that this is what's coming down the line, people will listen, because you have a source. If you make it up, people don't care. And then you could say, oh, I was right about this, or oh, I was right about this. Like, hell, I called the end of Infinity War, and no one gave a fuck. Like, I said, when they announced what the movie's going to be, I said, oh, look, here's what they're going to do. They're going to end part 1 with Thanos collecting the Infinity Stones and snapping his fingers, and then part 2 is going to be them fixing the universe. Like, this was not hard to guess. Like, you know, with the benefit of hindsight, maybe that was something that, you know, people were like, oh, well, you just said it then. But no, I said it back in a very early episode. I'm still going through the old episodes for, you know, a project, but still, you know, I think that that's a, you know, a thing worth noting. And it's like, I'm not saying I need praise, but I'm saying that, you know, me predicting that is as significant as someone else predicting, you know, as someone else predicting that, you know, they're going to do this. And that was a thing, too, is it's like, people always tease with these cryptic things where it's like, no one was close. There was no person who was like, you know, oh, he's close by predicting that this is going to happen in this, you know, in this director. Oh, they're going to announce this game, and here's something cryptic that alludes to Scarlet and Violet. And it's like, well, no one did that. And it's like, you know, why would someone do that? Like, you know, why would someone with inside information give that information out? Like, it's not like a leak. They're not Deep Throat. And as much as the game, the trailer acted like the beginning of All the President's Men, this is not the Watergate scandal, where they're sitting and waiting for a whistleblower to come out and say, here are the new games that are coming. It's a business. It's like, you know, you sign NDAs, you sign all of this stuff. You mean to tell me you think that they couldn't track back the fake leaks, the leaks and all of that? Like, yeah, leaks happen. We know leaks happen because that was the entire marketing plan of Spider-Man No Way Home. But to sit here and act like, you know, all of a sudden these people are, you know, like, they were this wrong twice in a row, where it's like, you know, they predicted that, you know, there was going to be a game announcement and it was DLC, and then the next time they're predicting it's going to be DLC and then it's a game announcement. It's like, come the fuck on. You mean to tell me that, you know, people, like, how many times are people going to be fooled by this before they're like, hey, wait a minute, they're just good guessers? It's like every time you go on We Got This Covered, and they have a new news story about some new character who's getting a movie or a TV show, and it's like, well, we predicted, like, we had an insider told us this, and it's like, the same insider who told us the Golden Eagle armor was going to be in Wonder Woman 1984 also knew that Kenobi was going to be made into a show, and that they were going to make a movie about, and they were going to make an Ironheart show. And it's like, well, yeah, no shit. Like, you're all predicting things that aren't exactly hard to predict. I'll give them. It was a very good prediction about the Golden Eagle armor. I will give them that. But here's the thing. Looking at broadly what they predicted, it's like, okay, you predicted it. And for an insider to have all of that information, it's like, who the fuck is your source? Like, who is the source that has knowledge of what's going on? Not just at Marvel, but also at Lucasfilm. And it's not, like Bob Iger might know that, and the higher-ups in the office at the Walt Disney Company might know that. But, like, the very top echelon of people, we're not talking about, like, there isn't some person who's like, oh, well, we know all of this, like, for all of these companies. And to sit here and be like, oh, and that person also has contacts inside Warner Brothers as well, like, there's this, like, lack of understanding, and I don't know if it's a willful lack of understanding from the person who's running We Got This Covered, or if it's a willful lack of understanding, from, like, or it's just they know, but they're just passing the information on poorly to the people. But, like, at Disney, it's not one huge studio. Disney is comprised of multiple subsidiaries, where it's like, the parks are its own division from the movies, which, Disney movies is different from Disney Animation, which is different from Pixar, which is different from Lucasfilm, which is different from Marvel Studios, which is different from National Geographic, and even 20th Century is its own thing, and Searchlight is its own thing, and it's like, to say that all of these companies, and ESPN is its own thing, to say that all of these companies, are all like this big office and they all share one office, it's ludicrous. It's not how things work. It's not reflective of reality. And if you're going to sit here and point to, like, oh, well, here's here's what's happening in Disney, and be like, okay, I could buy that. But then for someone who has all that level of information at Disney to also have that level of information at Warner Brothers and at DC and at, like Sony, because, Sony, and Marvel talk, but not to the level of detail that they go into. And people just, buy it. And it's like, oh, cool. It's like, well, they're good guessers. That's what they are. They're very good guessers. It's like, you notice how these companies that guess, that have these exclusives, only have these exclusives after there's something else revealed that tells them. Like, the big reveal from Crisis was that Brandon Routh was going to be reprising as Superman in Crisis on Infinite Earths. And they also announced at Comic-Con that, what's his name, was going to be Pariah. Harrison Wells, Tom Cavanaugh plays Harrison Wells, was going to be Pariah. And Lila Michaels was going to be, as her name suggests, she was going to be Harbinger. Like, those were the big reveals, and they showed costumes, like, holy fuck, this is awesome. And then, like, one or two news sources were like, exclusive, Tom Welling reprises his role. No one had the information that Ezra Miller would be reprising. That didn't get out. Because there was no indication that would happen. There was no indication that there would be a crossover that major from the movie to the TV division. And there was no indication that there would be a person who appeared in the movies being there. Like, the biggest movie star who was appearing was, like, I guess we would say, like, Robert Wuhl would be appearing. Like, that's kind of a big one, I guess. We'll say Robert Wuhl from, what was that one called? Batman, from Batman 89. Then there was also, the appearance of, who was the other one? There was another big one in Crisis. Oh, fuck. I almost called him Ray Palmer, but the actor. Fuck, I'm forgetting. Brandon Routh, appearing at, appearing as Superman. So they didn't say, like, oh, well, Ezra Miller's going to appear. No one had that. And to say Tom Welling, it's like, okay, well, you got all of these other people who are appearing. Like, you got all of these other people who are appearing, and it's all, TV people. It's no movie people. And, Mark Guggenheim comes out, and he's like, well, no, that's not true. We didn't have, We didn't have talks about Tom Welling appearing until, like, 2 weeks before the release, and we shot him in extra scenes. Like, that wasn't something we were keeping as a big reveal. It didn't happen until very late into the production. And it's like, cool, you called something. You didn't have an insider. And then when these people go out and they're like, well, they're just lying. It's like, no, they're not lying. Like, come the fuck on. You think that they're lying to what end? To what end? Like, it just doesn't make sense to me that, like, the level of delusion people have to live in to do this, and this is turning into a rant, or has turned into a rant, and we've long crossed that bridge, but, whatever. Here we are. So the insiders, are saying now that there won't be a national dex in Pokemon, in Violet and, in Violet and Scarlet, to which I say, I mean, cool, you figured that out on your own, did you? Like, oh, okay, so, there won't be a national dex in these games? What fucking tipped you off to that? Like, there wasn't a national dex in the last, 3 or 4 games that came out. Like, look back and look at what was in the last few games. Like, there wasn't a full national dex of the full thing. I think going all the way back to, Sun and Moon. Like, I don't think Sun and Moon had a full national dex. Definitely Sword and Shield didn't. Definitely there wasn't one in Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl. And there definitely wasn't one in Let's Go. So, what are you claiming to know? Like, what's the big reveal here that you now know that no one else does? That you are, oh, okay, we know this cool thing. It's like, well, no. Like, what is the new thing that you are revealing? Nothing. It's like, oh, it won't have the national dex? Yeah, what the fuck? Like, there hasn't been a game that has the full national dex since, I'm going to say safely, since, what's it called? Since, what was the name of that one game? Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. I would say since then, there hasn't been a game that has a full national dex, and even that, I'm not 100% on Sun and Moon, because I haven't played them in so long. So maybe Sun and Moon and Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon had the national dex, but I just don't remember. But I know for damn certain, there hasn't been a single game on the Switch that had the full national dex. And I know that for oh no, you know what it was? It definitely was Sun and Moon were the last games. Because Sun and Moon had all the character models, and that was what people pointed to. Was that like, oh, well, the character models were there and done. And it's like, that was definitely the last one that had it. But yeah, you're not breaking any news. It's like, that's just the way it is now. So yeah. So that's that for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet and the big insider report. Get ready for just about every combination that involves fire, water, and grass to be speculated as the leaked starter final evolutions, and get ready for, all kinds of things to come out. Like, oh, Mega Evolution's coming back. Oh, Z moves are coming back. Like, I think that since the region is based on Spain, and considering where Spain is compared to France, I think Mega Evolution coming back is a possibility, considering that is adjacent to France, and that we do see that, that region. Like, if you look at the map of, the map of Kalos, there is that southern region, and, that could be Spain. So I don't think that that's outlandish to say, and there will be people who are positing that, but who knows? Who knows? And until which time as Game Freak of the Pokemon Company releases new information, all we can do is speculate. And if you read an insider, quote-unquote, don't believe them until you see actual concrete evidence. Like, until it comes from the Pokemon Company, or you play the game yourself and you're like, oh, this is what's in the game, don't take anything from alleged insiders. It's cool. Like, read it the way you would read fan fiction. That's the best advice I have. Read any insider report that's not from a major trade, and not vetted thoroughly, as, like, I would say GameSpot, I would say IGN, I would say even Kotaku has reliable news reporting. I wouldn't take anything you hear from, as factual. So yeah, I just don't think... I just think that's a kind of a, kind of a misfire. Not a misfire, but, like, it's definitely something that's worth thinking about if you're going to, consume media. Because it's knowing who's giving you what you're reading and what they are telling you. And knowing that it may or may not be true. So, yeah. So, our next big story comes from the, I gotta say, before we get on that, I just saw a truck drive by me and it had the balls hanging off of the thing. Why? I don't understand that. I don't understand why you need to hang the balls off the back of your car. And it's not like, a pair of balls that are like, oh, okay, that's not meant to be a ball sack. It's like, no, that is very literally a very specifically designed ball sack. Like, that is, like, intricately designed with, like, detail and meticulous attention to detail played in. Like, what the fuck? Anyway, new trailer for, There's a new trailer for, the Secrets of Dumbledore, but I keep calling the Crimes of Dumbledore. And, I mean, look, they're not doing a lot to sell this movie. I don't know if they give a shit about this movie doing well. I mean, I have, like, various questions about the logistics of how this movie works, because if you look at it, it's the most fucking bizarre thing on the planet, where it's like, they gotta take down Dumbledore. There's a real heist vibe to it. Like, especially that first trailer. I saw the first trailer again in theaters before, I think it was the animation showcase. They showed that trailer again. And I see it, and I'm like, it's got heist vibes to it, where it's like, here's the team, we're going to go in, we're going to stop Grindelwald. But really, there are 2 more movies, so it's going to be unsuccessful. Like, I don't understand how that works, unless they're just going to end it now and not do 2 more movies. And I feel like there's not too much new here. My problem with it is Jacob's continued appearances. And I think if there's any character who doesn't need to be continued appearances, it's Jacob. The idea of him giving a wand, like Dumbledore giving a wand to Jacob and being like, oh, this is a good idea. Which raises a bunch of questions, namely, like, I thought magic was something that the wand channeled out of the wizard, which is why, like, there are wizards who can do magic without the wand, and they can, like, they can use, like, the wand is a channeler of magic, is the way it was always described, up until literally this moment, where it's like, the wand can channel the energy into usable ways, and the way the wizard uses the wand can manipulate how the magic is manifested into the real world. The wand itself wasn't necessarily an object that possessed the ability to do the magic on its own. It needed the wizard to do it, otherwise it was just a stick. And that's the way it was always kind of presented. Like, the wand had some sentience to it. There was always some sentience assigned to wands, but the explanation behind it was always like, it's kind of a partnership, but there wasn't nearly there wasn't really like, the wand couldn't do the magic on its own without the wizard, helping in some way. So, I think that therein lies my number one problem with this, is how does that work? And okay, so he has the wand, and he's using the wand, and it's like, it's going to lead to some slapstick moments, but I don't understand how it works. And the idea that we're going to give him this wand, we're going to teach him, it's like, oh, we're going Doctor Strange rules of magic. Or, like, there's a lot of other things where, the rule of magic is basically just, anyone can do it with the right training. And not everyone gets the right training. It's, you have to go and seek it out on your own. You have to do X, Y, and Z to get the right training. But to, this idea of, like, you need to have the right training, and then when you have the right training, you can do magic the way any other wizard can. You can become a great wizard that way. It's an interesting idea. It's just contradictory to everything in the last, 9 movies before this. And it's like, look, if you're going to, build a franchise, you're going to do that, especially in fantasy, the rules need to be kind of concrete. Like, rules of magic are important. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, in fantasy, it's something that needs to be developed, and it needs to be consistent over the course of the entire thing. And it doesn't appear that there's anything resembling that here. Which is a problem, to say the least. So, yeah, I think that's kind of the big problem I have. And then on top of that, if we take that, and then we couple it with the fact that, if it's not unheard of that a muggle can just use the wand and have it do stuff, but it's dangerous to do so, why is he giving it to Jacob and just being like, we have no other idea, when Tina is a thing? Like, Tina is a character, and Tina is there, and we haven't seen Tina in any of these trailers, but why the fuck is Tina not there? So, yeah, I just feel like it's kind of a weird decision, especially considering there's so many other characters that have been introduced in this, prequel time period that, it doesn't make sense to me that we're going to sit here and just watch the same things happen over and over and over again, with characters that don't exactly make sense. Like, I genuinely do not understand the logistics of why Dumbledore would give the wand to Jacob when there are other allies that he could use. Like, why? Like, I really don't understand why not Tina. I think that was her name. Catherine Waterston's character, who was on the movie for the first 2, and then, I don't remember the outcome of 2 either. So fucking forgettable. But yeah, like, you see what the issue I have with this is. It doesn't make sense. The logistics of magic for a fantasy series, it's kind of an important thing, and they're making no effort to make the rules. I don't even want to say logical, because that makes it sound like there should be but there should be an internal running logic to how magic works if you're going to do a story like this. That's an important piece of it. And to think that they just, kind of, I don't want to say they're flouting the rules, because, they make the rules as they go, because it doesn't make sense to me that there is no logistical, that doesn't really make sense to me. So we'll wrap up there for today. We'll be back with any other news as it happens, so until then, have a great rest of your week.